Hello everyone, it's Stacy here today, and you probably already saw the title. I'm going to tell you why I decided not to go to seminary. So, in one of my previous videos, I kind of explained how I got into nutrition and how I decided to go to Texas Women's University. And I mentioned that I originally wanted to go to seminary, but that I don't anymore. So I'm going to explain why today. So just to give you a little story of why I even wanted to go in the first place. So when I was at Sam Houston State University, I actually had a good core group of Christian friends. I had met with them regularly. We had Bible study. We fellowshiped together. We really did life together. And I fell in love with studying the Bible, and I just wanted more and more. And so I was actually interested in going to seminary. Now, I was not the only one in our group that was interested. I actually had quite a few friends that ended up going to seminary. Some of them became pastors. They graduated and got into ministry. Some of them, they're not in ministry at all, but they still went. And I had all intentions to go to seminary. So I stated in the previous video where I talk about how I got into dietetics that when I decided what school to go to, I based that off of where the seminary was that I wanted to go to. So, I made a decision that I wanted to make a career change and get into dietetics. And I could have went to school anywhere in Texas. They have dietetic programs back at Sam Houston where I was, at University of Texas at Austin, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Like there's a ton of schools. But I narrowed it down to the DFW area, and that was Texas Women's University and Texas Christian University. And I ended up deciding Texas Women's University. Now, I narrowed it down to the DFW area because I had all the intentions in the world of going to seminary once I was done with my dietetics degree. And so I was like, might as well just move to that area since that's where I want to end up and that's where I want to go to school eventually. And so that's really how I decided Texas Women's. It's not necessarily the best approach to figuring out what school to go to. Um, but I had in mind, like, I was more concerned about the seminary than I was about the nutrition degree, if I'm honest. Um, so that's how we even got up here to the Dallas area, because of that. Um, and God has a sense of humor. Um, I've been here. I've gotten my second bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's degree in nutrition, and I am now finishing. And technically, I might already be finished with my PhD in nutrition. I don't know when the technical end date is. I will give you guys an update on my PhD process. I did defend and all of that, um, but I don't know when the cutoff date is when I'm officially Dr. Ellis. Um, but yeah, so I'm at the end. So technically, I want to go to seminary. This would be the time for me to start looking into it, or at least like take a break, and then, that could be an option. But as the title states in the video, I'm not interested anymore. I'm no longer interested, which I think is amazing. Like looking back now, that God even sent me up here to Texas Women's University because it's a great school for nutrition. It is. And I wasn't even thinking of that when I picked it, you know. But God knew that He wanted me up here. Um, Now, the title of the video is that why I don't want to go anymore. Uh, as you can tell by the way I'm talking, it's not because I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm definitely still a Christian. I still love God. I'm into ministry, all of that. If you've never been on this YouTube channel before, And you might have thought that I lost my faith or anything like that. I have not. Okay, so that's not the reason why. Okay. Um, but since I've been up here, there's a lot of graduates from Dallas Theological Seminary. There's Southwestern Baptist University. There's Dallas uh, Baptist University, um, Texas Bible College. Like, there's a lot of Christian universities up here, and I've come across a lot of graduates. And there's a few things that I've noticed has been made clear to me um, since I've been up here. Okay. For one thing, I realized that going to these schools does not necessarily make you a minister, doesn't necessarily make you good at preaching, at leading, at mission work, at evangelism, at counseling, at relating to people, like all those things. It, it doesn't necessarily. Now, there are people who graduate and they are good at those things. Yeah, you can graduate with pastoral care as like one of your tracks and learn how to preach, and you can preach well, or you may not preach well, possibly. Um, so that's one thing that I realized. Like, going to these universities does not automatically mean that you're going to be effective in ministry. Um, and unfortunately, like, some of these people, I know people who have never been to seminary that are even more effective than the people who've gone to seminary. Um, but again, not that there aren't people who go to seminary that are good in their field once they get out. There are those, but just going to seminary itself does not guarantee that you're going to be grand and glorious in in ministry. The other thing, so the main reason why I wanted to go was because I've been hungry for God. I'm still hungry for God, and I wanted to learn more about Him. And I thought the best way is to go to seminary, because in seminary, you're going to be doing in-depth Bible classes and studying and learning about the Bible. And so I was like, yeah, sign me up. That's what I want to do. But again, being up here and talking to some people who've gone to seminary, going to seminary itself does not guarantee that you really know the Bible. It doesn't. You might know a lot about the Bible. You've read it, you've studied it, you've done papers on it and all of that, but that doesn't mean you really know the Bible. Um, which leads me to my next point. And you probably are like, that doesn't make sense, Stacy. Like, you're saying that they spend all these hours studying it and you're saying they don't know the Bible. The reason why I say that is a lot of times when people go to seminaries, they are under a certain type of teaching. So, like, we have the Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, I think that's what it's called. So, it's a Baptist university, right? So, you're going to get taught a Baptist way of thinking, right? Um, and so, you're learning the Bible in this lens, right? This type of lens, a Baptist lens, or if you're going to a Methodist school, or whatever place you go. And I find that a lot of people who go to seminary, they actually are very narrow-minded in terms of their views of the Bible. They're not everyone, but a lot of them are. They're very adamant that their way of thinking, their lens and scope is the correct way of thinking about the Bible. Now, it makes sense for them to feel this way because you spend so many years digging deep, and this is the stuff that you're learning. You're learning from previous theologians in your field. And so if you're exposed to just Baptist preachers over and over again, or Methodist preachers over and over again, you're going to get convinced that that is the correct way of thinking about things. Um, and I, quite frankly, I got turned off by that. That's probably one of the major things that turned me off because not that I'm anti denominations or anything like that, but I think it really limits us when we just look through the lens of just the denomination that we're in. I think that, especially when it comes to denominations, it's a fairly new concept. Like Baptists have not been around that long. Methodists haven't been around that long. And I know they take history, church history classes and things like that, but you're still being taught through, that denomination lens. Um, and for some people, not all, but some people, because they are so entrenched into this way of thinking, they feel that that's the only way, and anything outside of that is like heresy, and that you were wrong. And they are quick to tell you that you're wrong, and they're quick to try to correct you. And that was another thing that I personally did not like. I didn't want to be one of those people that will automatically just be like, no, your way of thinking is wrong and whatnot. Um, I have developed this way of thinking about the Bible where I ask a lot of questions. I'm okay with not having the answer to the questions. There's a lot of people who struggle with not having the answers. I'm okay with not having the answers. But I do ask these questions. Why do we believe what we believe about certain topics? If you've been on my channel and you see some of the things that I post, I do question our thinking about different things about the Bible a lot. It's not to mislead anyone. It's not to cause heresy or anything like that. I'm not saying that I am, an expert in this field. I'm not saying that I'm a preacher or, all of that. I'm not saying that. But I do ask the question, well, we say this, but the early church fathers said this. Or, we have this tradition, but we also have these historical books that says X, Y, and Z. Why are we ignoring what the historical book said? They were around at the time of Jesus. Or, why do we, there's just so many questions I ask. And I find that a lot of times um, these questions are not welcomed by a lot of people who are in other who've gone to seminary. I'm not saying that that's the case always, but a lot of times when I have these discussions, they're quick to try to answer based off of a textbook answer, things that they've heard without giving adequate background. Um, you know, there's verses that have been used for years to um, answer questions about like the end of the age, about angels and demons, about prophecies, about the gifts of the Spirit. Like there's a ton of topics that have verses and theological um, ways of thinking, doctrines um, that have been passed down for years and years. And I just ask the question, well, where does this come from? And some of them, yes, a lot of them are correct. They are. I'm not saying that they're not correct, but when you start asking some other questions, um, and when people get a little kind of aggressive, I find that a lot of the people who've gone to seminary, they sometimes are a little bit more like, I'm the expert in this, um, you know. And I feel like I get it because, like, I've gone to school for nutrition, and I would say I'm an expert in nutrition for sure. Um, but I even get things wrong in nutrition. Nutrition is forever evolving. We don't know everything. Um, but I do think that when it comes to the Bible and God, that we have to be careful with trying to label people as experts on things. Um, I don't think that it's appropriate. Um, in many contexts, I think that there are experts, yes, but I think we have to be careful. And I do think, and this might be me judging, but I do think that some people go to seminary because they want to be seen as the expert in the Bible, which I would say is a prideful way of thinking. God is the one that brings to understanding the different things in the Bible. God is the one that reveals to us, right? And you may go to seminary, you may, study the Bible on your own. God is the one to reveal it. There's people who never went to seminary and they know more about the Bible than some people who've gone to seminary. Which leads to my next point. You don't have to go to seminary in order to study the Bible. You can learn without spending a dime. And I've actually come across one of my friends who went to seminary stated that. He said, "You don't need to go to seminary. You can just read these books. You can just study this on your own." There's several people on YouTube who's had videos and they stated that, like, you don't need to go to seminary. You can just study it. These books, you know. Um, and so that's where I'm at. I rather study it because I'll have a little bit more control. I won't just get the Baptist view or the Methodist view or the Catholic view or the Orthodox view or whatever. I can look at the church at large and I can try to understand it that way. I can look at the historical documents, the early church fathers, um, and come to an understanding that way. Yes, I can refer to commentaries, I can refer to these different resources, but I'm at a place where I'm not just devoting my attention to just those things. I think that the documents closest to the original early church fathers, the time of Jesus, like all of those things, I think they have greater weight than all of the commentaries that were written in the 18th, 19th century. Like, that's just my opinion, personally. Um, Not that there isn't benefit in reading commentaries and things like that. I have a bookshelf right here full of modern day books, Christian authors that I read. I read Christian literature daily. Um, but I just found for myself, it just, seminary is no longer needed. And I also, if I'm honest, I understand people need a living and they need to make money. And I know it costs money to have electricity in the classrooms and to use the computer systems and stuff. Part of me has some conflict with these high tuition rates at these seminaries when at the time of Jesus when people were discipling each other, they weren't paying to get discipled. So that's another really big, like, I don't know if that is okay. Like like I get like you having to pay some things, but some of these seminaries are like ridiculously expensive. Like really expensive. And I just can't, like, someone who doesn't have money, like, I understand their scholarships and stuff, but it's just I have a hard time with that part too. I just think, the education should be available. And DTS, they actually have their stuff free. They have classes that are recorded and all of that, but you don't get the certificate. You don't get that one-on-one time with the professor and stuff like that. So that I'm just, but I get like the need for some of the money, but I still struggle with that if I'm honest. I don't think it's right. Um, I don't. I think the church should be contributing and helping people get discipled and get trained up effectively. But our church here in America, we don't do that. We don't, and that's a whole nother story. Not for this video here. Um, so yeah, so those are the main reasons. I do find it discouraging here in the Metroplex. Like if you want to get involved, a lot of churches will only hire people who are graduates from these universities. So that I find is disturbing because everyone in the church should have a job. Everyone, not just the people who are graduates, everyone. And my ministry area, I work as a volunteer with Dallas Metro Ministries, and I'm grateful for that. I've been here for a long time, and church after church after church, I didn't meet the qualifications to get involved. I'm at a church now where I do meet the qualifications. Like he wants me to get involved, but I just can't find my place to plug in. Um, I'm just still at Dallas Metro right now. I haven't really found my appropriate ministry at my local church, and I'm okay with that because I know that God's using me at Dallas Metro right now. Um, but yeah, that is another thing that I personally get frustrated with because, like I said, just because you get a degree from these places doesn't mean you're equipped. I mean, there's people who come visit us from Dallas, at Dallas Metro that's gone to these universities and they're not equipped at all. They're not equipped at all for street ministry. So um, that's just a side note. Um, so yeah, so that kind of summarizes why I decided that I don't want to go to seminary anymore. I don't want to have one frame of thinking. I don't like the idea of paying. Um, and I can learn it on my own, at my own pace, um, without being influenced. And that's another thing too. I went through a program at Denton Bible Church. I love the program. It was called BTCL, Bible Teaching Leadership Training Program. And we had a paper in there about about the Trinity. And I wrote my paper. And like I said before, I asked questions like, why do we say this? Why do we say Trinity? Why do we, so I have these questions written in my paper. And they graded it and they were like, you need to redo this paper. Why? Because I have this question? Like, what is wrong with asking these questions? I believe in Jesus. I love Jesus. I love God. There's no doubt in my belief in God and belief in, like, there's no doubt in my mind. There's none at all. Like, I'm a child of God. I know I am, you know, but I'm not a robot. I'm not just going to take just because someone said something. There's in Revelation, it talks about the seven spirits of God. We're going to ignore that. And I know some people they have, well, that's the Holy Spirit, or that means this and that. But that's just one example of, like if you go to seminary, there's a certain way you're supposed to answer things, and you can't ask certain questions. And, again, I never been to seminary, so I might be wrong. If you've been to seminary, you tell me. What is your views? Do you agree with what I feel? Do you feel that you know, that it's worth just doing it on your own? Um, I'm sure that there's benefits in going to seminary. If you think that I'm saying heretical things right now, you can tell me that too. But where I am at in my walk with God, I feel that, if I just continue doing what I'm doing, I think I'm the most effective. Um, I don't see a lot of seminary people going out on the streets evangelizing to the poor people, the homeless people. They're sitting in their comfortable churches, preaching on a stage and being glorified by their congregation. Not everybody, but that is something that I notice, and I don't like that about the church. Um, so I don't know. All right, I rambled long enough. So that's why I am not going to seminary. I may change my mind later. Maybe I'll take a few classes here and there, but I have no desire right now to. I don't want to be influenced to think the wrong way. Um, Not that they think the wrong way, but you know what I mean, like what I said earlier. I don't want to be narrow-minded in my thinking. And it's expensive. It is. It's expensive. So, yeah. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Sorry, you might have heard that. I just hit my thing. See y'all next time. Bye.